Hello everybody and welcome to another reaction to Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So we are reacting to chapters 19 and 20 I feel like at this point in time, but I might also just be completely off on my count here. But I am very happy because the first one of these was a Zets and Kaladin chapter, which I think for the last 3 reactions or so I've been saying like, where are my boys? This is the storyline that I'm most interested in, so I am very happy to be getting that dynamic, especially since it also of course includes Nightblood, the speaking sword, so perfect vibes there. So we basically see Zets and Kaladin arrive in Shinovar, and you know the weirdness that this land is for Kaladin. So we finally see Zets in his natural environment, and so being able to walk on, you know, like the land and not have to walk on rock. I'd kind of forgotten about that whole aspect of rocks being like holy things or something like that to the Shin people, and that you're not supposed to like stand on rock. I kind of forgotten all that aspect, as well as I'd also forgotten that, you know, Sets hears all of these like voices inside his head. What I did like is that, you know, we see some of the internal turmoil when it comes to the character of Zets, and I'm kind of hoping we still see some more of his personality coming through, because in this chapter we kind of see how, you know, there are certain things that he's doing now which he's like unsure of, like, am I doing them just out of tradition, or, you know, is this really what I prefer, like keep on wearing white, keep on shaving his head. And he kind of comments at one point that, you know, like some of these choices can like really set you back in the day and really have a huge time drain, and so it's easier to just continue doing them like that, to like not really think about the choice, because that way, you know, he doesn't waste time thinking about it. And we see throughout the chapter that he's definitely still kind of like following rather than leading or making his own choices. And, you know, like his bonds, you know, his friend is very much sort of like his ruler at this point in time, and very eager and just in terms of it's very eager to just like lay down the law and tell Sets what he should be doing. And while that's fine, and I thought that dynamic was somewhat funny to see occur, I think Zets comes across as being a much less sort of like rigid, rigorous character than the bondsmiths typically are, and no, Skybreakers, right? Than the Skybreakers seem to be. So his highest friend is very much like, this is the law, we must follow the letter of the law, and that seems to be a little bit more, you know, like bendy, maybe because of the fact that he's been following other people's rules and regulations all of his life. He's just like willing to go along with them, but it doesn't seem like he himself places all that much importance on anybody else following the rules and all of those things. And so I do hope that throughout this book we'll see kind of the development with Zets in terms of him starting to make his own choices, or starting to express preferences, feel preferences, because that would just be lovely for the character, because I love the character of Zets. And I'm happy to see him now in his homeland, and I'm happy for us to see more of Shinovar, because we've not seen a ton of Shinovar. We've had it in a few interludes mainly, I feel like, and maybe even just the one. There's definitely one interlude that we had in Shinovar, and so I'm eager to see more of it, and I'm happy that we're also seeing some of it through Cal's perspective, who, you know, for him this is just like an impossible land, you know, like he doesn't really understand how plants like this or that could grow there, because he's always lived in lands that have, where the high storms are able to reach the land, and so nothing really can survive because of the strength and the force that they are battered with every time a high storm hits, whereas these plants here in Shinovar have been able to grow in a much better environment. And what I enjoy is that we see Cal kind of being hesitant to step on plants, because he's like, yeah, but I like it's fragile, I don't want to ruin it, because this is something that he just has no experience with, and would be something extremely rare and delicate in his environment. But so yeah, I love their interactions already, and I think it's like Zets is definitely like taking no prisoners when it comes to, like, he's not holding back when it comes to Kaladin. There's this whole conversation that they have between themselves in which he's basically just like, because Cal doesn't want to like step on the plans, he's kind of like, oh, so have you grown into like a coward because you're no longer, you know, like fighting amongst your fellow soldiers, which, you know, ouch, Seth, a very painful comment to make, and one that is definitely not appreciated by Cal. But then I like this sort of interaction. So they have this sort of little bit of a banter, and then Cal is like, that's not what I'm saying, Zets. Kaladin says. Then you should stop talking, Zets replied, because if you cannot explain what you mean, then why voice silly thoughts? So I hope that this is more of the interaction that we'll have between the three of them. There's also this moment in which like Cal asks a question and like the sword answers instead, and Cal just ignores him. So I'm ready for this bromance to blossom between Cal and Zets, and Nightblood being there as a sidekick. So yeah, give me more of this. I am ready. I want it. Yes, this is what I want. Next chapter sees us back in the tower, back in Outtro, kind of going over the tactics of what they're gonna do. So we have confirmation from the Stormfather and from the sibling, I think, that, you know, the vessel of Odium, it has indeed been changed. So we do have confirmation of that for the entire team pretty early on, but then they kind of have to figure out how to deal with the different situations. So they kind of go over the tactics for every single location where we currently have an army amassing. So for Aasimar, because the Oath Gate is apparently in the center of the town, it means that it's less possible to kind of navigate around it. There is a pretty decent size of force already there, and there's some sort of a there isn't really as much of a force there, but there is this sort of like defense mechanism that is there, and because of the way because of the way that that is all structured around each other, I'm imagining it's a little bit like a funnel through which there won't be much room to navigate for the forces coming in, so it'll be more easily to defend it. Talon City is a harbor city that needs to be breached through the sea first. The naval force has been decimated in the attack on Talon City, so they don't really have much in terms of defenses, so they fully rely on any support that Dalinar and his troops are able to give. And then we have the Shattered Plains, which is another one of these difficult to navigate locations, but it's also like the last sort of like stronghold, or the last like hold that the Alethi have over this part of the world, so they definitely don't want to see it go. And so in the end it is decided that we're gonna not focus on the Azimish Empire. So we're gonna send a slice force over there because it is more easily defendable. The biggest bulk is going to Talon City, and then another big bulk is going to the Shattered Plains. Shattered Plains forces will be run by Zigzil, the Talon City force will be run by Jasna, and the Azimish forces will be run by Adolin. And so the moment that Adolin kind of stepped forward to propose himself as the general for the assault on Aasimar, that's kind of like when you see some tension kind of creep in with this Dalinar-Adolin relationship. And you can also see that, you know, like Adolin is completely true with Dalinar, and so he doesn't mind like speaking up in front of this entire group of people and being like, you know, you don't trust me anymore, is that what it is? Basically saying that. And they kind of have it out a little bit afterwards, and I like that Navani being kind of like on the edge of her seat to some extent, but also being like really hesitant about, okay, what are these guys going to say to each other, while simultaneously being like they should really have it out one of these days. And so Dalinar and Adolin have a little bit of a dodgy conversation with one another, but then at a moment in which Navani is kind of like hug him, say goodbye to him, which he's kind of really hesitant to do because he kind of feels like, you know, nothing he can say to Aelin now will make a difference or will be received in a correct manner. And I guess to some extent that's true, but I don't agree with then with being like, okay, so I might as well not say. So it's better for me to say nothing than to say the wrong thing. Because, you know, you're just letting it fester even further, and if you're not gonna say anything, then that's definitely the wrong thing to say, you know, like Adelin is expecting something out of you at least, and, you know, communicate at least. If it's communication and it's open communication, even if what you're saying is the wrong thing and it sours the relationship, at least it's been out there and it's real what you've been communicating with one another. And so yeah, if it isn't helping your relationship, then maybe your relationship needs more work indeed, but like just not putting in any work and just like being like, yeah, whatever, I cannot solve it, so I'm not even gonna try, is really the wrong attitude here. But I do like that moment because I do think I kind of mentioned something similar in the previous reaction, in which Dalinar is kind of saying like, so Adelin came back with some sort of a small jibe towards Dalinar, something like, oh yeah, like they find out that Shallan has basically been lying to them about the ghost bloods the entire time, and then they're like, yeah, that's a lot of trust to place in somebody who's basically been lying to us all of this time. And Adelin is like, yeah, you would know nothing about that, right? And then Dalinar is kind of indicating that, you know, he feels like Adelin should be above all that he didn't raise him like that. And then the comment comes that's very similar to something I said in one of my recent reactions. It's basically Adelin throwing it back at him like, you didn't raise me, you killed the one who'd raised me. So yeah, this is a deep wound. It isn't just going to go away like that if Dalinar is not going to engage in the conversation, if Dalinar is not going to have it out. And true, Adelin is also not making a real attempt at discussing it. He's agreeing with Dalinar like, now's not the time, we can discuss this at some later point, but it is definitely going to come out somewhere during this book, right? I mean, there are so many groundworks being placed for it, but also it needs to be tackled. If it isn't tackled now, you need to be a united front, and this sort of animosity existing between the two of them isn't really going to help them all that much neither. So yeah, that's what happens throughout these two particular chapters. I am very much hoping, because Adel is going to look for volunteers for his fight in the Azish Empire, so I'm very much hoping that Yanagan will volunteer and that Lift will volunteer, because I still have my Lift chapter left to go. There will be a Lift chapter within this section, so I'm hoping that that is just Lift saying, hey, this is where a big part of my, this is a very huge event in my life started, and I'm gonna go and defend this city at all costs. So that's my hope, even though they did kind of mention that they wanted edge dancers for the fight in Talon City because they would be able to heal people there, but honestly that's goes for all three of the fronts. They'll need edge dancers to heal, so I'm still hoping that that wasn't a sort of like forte into the idea of like having Lift go there. I want Lift in Azimir, and I kind of think that we've laid the groundworks as well for Yanagan joining the fight. We've kind of laid the groundworks of Yanagan wanting to be more involved, and this would be a perfect opportunity to do it, and we've seen that sort of like starting point, the seed being placed between Adolin and Yanagan in a previous chapter, so I do think that that is where Sanderson is going to take this. But let's find out in the next episodes. Normally I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the next installment of my reaction series for this is going to come earlier than it has so far, because I am away on trip at this point in time, and so from now on there will be 2 videos of the reaction to Wind and Truth for 2-3 weeks until I am back from holidays, and Every Book All at Once will resume for the Tuesday video, but so for now it'll be Tuesday and Sunday videos for a little while. And so yeah, when I'm back from my trip, it will be very close to the release date of Wind and Truths, and yeah, I haven't actually made a plan about what I'm gonna do with these reactions at that point in time, but yeah, so far, let's just keep rolling the way we have been so far, and so I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!